For all your real estate, financing, and investing questions, call the show's off-air number and speak with Mike Gray directly. 530-431-8586. That's 530-431-8586. Now, the Golden State Report with Mike, Amy, and Dave.
David Stone is a registered representative of Lincoln Financial Advisors Corp., a broker-dealer member SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. Stone Consulting Group is a marketing name for registered representatives of Lincoln Financial Advisors.
Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to the Golden State Report, heard every weekend on AM 1380. I'm Mike Gray with Morris Williams Realty, along with Amy DeBoss from American Pacific Mortgage.
Oh, yes. Hello. We're just listening to Mike Gray's favorite song.
Oh, I love this song. I love this song.
Yeah, me too.
And that's...
Yeah, keep it going. Keep it going. Mike, the producer, always
Get in
taking care of
the
some
aloha spirit.
Oh, yeah.
I just love what the lyrics stand for. You know, It's just a wonderful day. You know, every day is a gift. And so...
yeah, I agree.
And David Stone is from Stone Consulting Group is the person who agrees.
Yeah, I agree. That's me.
Another gift.
Another gift. Yeah. We're all together for one more day in the studio. It's a gift.
See, I really believe when I start every day, it really is a gift. And every day is an opportunity to try to brighten somebody's day. And as I look through my day, I always say, all right, somebody's going to cross my path that perhaps my smile today will be the highlight of their day. And I just need to remember
it's a
that.
very positive thing to think about, Mike.
It is. Who's going to cross my path today that I can help?
And it's very selfless.
That's right.
I like that.
It's a wonderful life.
It is.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about a power of a plan. Talking about gifts.
That's right.
Chapter 5 talks about real estate.
Yeah, Mike's favorite chapter.
Oh, it is. It is. It's one of the reasons I gave you a call. I thought,
right.
I like this guy.
Yeah. Someone talking about real estate?
Yes.
What's up?
Real estate as an investment.
Yeah.
But what I want to talk about today is a 1031 tax-deferred exchange. Okay?
Yeah.
And there are some guidelines in that I just want to make sure that if we have investors out there, or if we want to be investors, a 1031 tax-deferred exchange is a great investment tool. Correct, Dave?
In my opinion, yes. It could be a great thing for somebody if they have the ability to, kick the can down the road a little bit for taxes, but at the same time, they still want to be in real estate.
If you've owned a rental for a period of time, a lengthy period of time, that rental has appreciated, and you've depreciated some of that on your tax form.
Right.
And so when you sell that, the government says, "Oh, I'm going to be in front of the line, to get my fair share." Now, my definition of fair share is different than the government's definition of fair share. All right. And
they want more.
They want a substantial amount.
Yeah,
a substantial amount more. Sometimes it can be over a third of the gain. It can really add up fast. Then you back on the depreciation. But a 1031 tax deferred exchange is exactly that. It allows you to defer the tax, just extend it down the road.
Yeah,
and it's a really great tool for real estate investors. But there are certain windows that when you sell something, you really must adhere to.
Yeah, there are.
Non-negotiables.
Yeah, the IRS has their rules, right?
Yeah, and you cannot go 1 second past whatever the dates that they put in there. And I will give you an example of one. We, Dave and I talked about this on the show before, but I had one of my investors call and had one of the investments out of state. And she called me on a Thursday and said, I need to buy, this house over here because I did a 1031 tax deferred exchange, and tomorrow is, when I have to buy.
Right.
And I said, oh, okay, well, we got to move fast, And I said, well, all we have to do is identify, the property.
Right.
And I said, as long as you're within your 45-day window, I said, so go back and see when you bought and make sure we're within the 45-day window. Unfortunately, the 45-day window was the previous Friday.
How heartbreaking.
And she goes, well, we'll just file for an extension. David, is this an area where the IRS will allow you an extension?
No, it is not.
No. I had the unfortunate task of telling her, I said, I'm sorry, you're just going to you're going to pay taxes on that one.
That's right. As a citizen of the United States, I thank you for your generosity.
Yeah. She was heartbroken. She goes, "What do you mean I have to pay tax?"
Yep.
I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, my gain's not that much." I said, "Well, you've owned it for quite a long time, so you're going to have to recapture your depreciation. You need to talk to a CPA.
Yeah.
This is not going to be a pleasant conversation."
I agree.
And I have since talked to her, and she said that was a terrible tax year.
I bet it was.
Yes, she goes, "I did not have enough put aside for that tax bill."
Yeah, that's painful.
So there are windows in a 1031 tax-deferred exchange.
Yeah, there are. I mean, real estate as an asset class, an investment, and a lot of times things go well, right? And when they do, you have the ability to take a house that maybe you bought for $100,000 or $200,000, and it became a higher number in the future. Let's just say the 200 became 400. So without getting into the specifics around, depreciation and stuff like that, basically you have a $200,000 gain right there, right? So what happens is sometimes people will just say, well, I'll take the money and I'll get the money and then I'll buy something. I have 60 days, right? I can just do this in 60 days. They think it's like a rollover.
Yes.
But the reality is you need to make that decision before you close escrow if you're going to purchase a replacement property. So when that happens, you basically have to send the money to a qualified intermediary. And that is a 1031 company that essentially says, we're going to hold your money. And while we hold your money, you need to go and find your replacement property. And you have 45 days, you mentioned that earlier, Mike, to identify the address or addresses of the potential properties you might purchase.
You have a certain number of possibilities you can identify.
Yeah. So you have that, and then the next thing you know that you're at day 42 and you haven't identified anything. We had a situation like that just recently with someone that we love and respect. We won't mention that person's name on the air, but sometimes that happens.
Yes, it does.
And mostly it's because people are busy, right? Life comes and life goes, and life is busy, and you're focusing on your business or you're focusing on family or whatever. The idea is you really need to be organized so that you know where you're going to go with that. So you have a 45-day waiting period or period where you can identify. You can identify on the first day. You can identify at 11:59 p.m. on the 45th day.
Yep.
But if you get to 12:01, as you said, on the next day, or actually 12 and 1 second, you are going to be paying the capital gains tax on that.
Yeah, state and federal.
State and federal, right. And so for federal tax, it's considered long-term or short-term capital gain. So long-term capital gain usually with real estate, the old term old and cold. If you're actually had it as an investment property, then you can pass that on. It becomes a long-term capital gain if you've held it for at least 12 months, right?
Correct.
So, and then you have 180 days to close escrow from the close of your selling of your property, right?
Not 180 days from 45th day, 180 days from the date that your investment property has closed.
Right. So we have a lot of different things that go into a 1031 exchange. But Chapter 5 specifically actually talks about some alternative solutions as it relates to this type of a strategy, and that is to defer the capital gains tax by by doing it right. And sometimes people just can't find property. Right, Amy?
That's right. Yep, we just had that situation last week.
Yeah.
Friend of mine had told me off the cuff that he was in a 1031 exchange. Money was sitting in the exchange account, and he had 3 days to find a house to buy.
Pressure.
I said, well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I said, maybe you should think about a DST. He said, yeah, I thought about that. How do I start that? I said, well, I don't know. I guess I'll call in an emergency favor to David Stone, see if he can meet with you. And of course, you and your team did acrobats to meet with him.
They moved some things around, and I was able to meet with that person.
That was wonderful.
So what's a DST?
Ooh, I love saying it.
Yeah.
DST, Delaware Statutory Trust.
That's it. That's it. So a Delaware Statutory Trust is one of many different investment solutions, but in this case, it is eligible for a 1031 exchange. So what it is basically gives you the ability to invest in real estate, but you're not going to own the entire property in many cases, you will be owning it with other people. So you'll have an undivided interest in a property.
Like an undivided interest in our apartment complex in Austin, Texas.
That's right.
Because I'm speaking from experience here, because we have sold one of our rentals, and Dave helped us exchange into the DST.
Yeah.
And we don't have to manage it, and we just get a check every month.
That's right. It's convenient. But there's risk in real estate, right?
There is.
So things can go up or down. Occupancy can go up or down, and so the thing about a Delaware statutory trust is. And let me back up. In a 1031 exchange, there's not really any financial requirements that you have to have, other than if you have to replace more, debt and different things. There's some details around that, which we don't really have a lot of time to go into because I don't know how much time we have left on this segment. But you do need to replace the debt, and so that's referred to as mortgage boot. If for some reason that you end up,
it has to match.
Has to match, right?
Correct.
So if you had go back to that example we talked about earlier, a $200,000 house that grew to $400,000. Let's say you had a $180,000 loan on it, and let's say that's now worth $160,000 worth of loan, right? So that you have to replace that loan and the value of the home that you sold. So it's a like kind exchange, so that's really what that's all about.
So if you have cash, doesn't matter. If
it's an all cash offer, you can add a loan to it and buy more, but you have to have, like in that example, you have to have at least a $400,000 property, and your mortgage that you have a loan against that property needs to be at least that $160 in the example I just gave.
Yeah. Any money that ends up in your pocket, you're going to pay taxes on.
Yeah.
And I also want to kind of come back. You had mentioned earlier in this segment that when you're in escrow, you need to start looking. I think if you are going to do a 1031 exchange, you need to have conversations with your realtor.
Absolutely.
Saying, here are the steps that you're going to have to be aware of. Mm-hmm. And I also have steps with somebody who can handle the 1031 exchange. That would be a conversation with you and your office saying, okay, when this money comes in, here's option A, option B, option C, option D.
Right.
The DST is just one of those options.
Yes, sir.
Perhaps there's a professional building. Perhaps there is other ways. Or another single-family home.
Yeah.
There are pros and cons to all of those. And those discussions need to happen before your investment property hits the market.
And I would like to add that anyone thinking of, selling an investment property and doing a 1031 exchange should absolutely hire an experienced realtor that is experienced with 1031 exchanges and investment properties.
I
totally agree.
And then 100%. Also have somebody like Dave on being prepared, helping you, being able to identify the steps you're going to have to walk.
Yeah.
And so that we don't come close to those drop dead deadlines.
Yeah, we like to make sure that if you did a Delaware statutory trust and you closed escrow on January 15th, in an ideal world, we have you already closing escrow on the new property by February 1st.
Right.
Because that means you're going to be getting rent.
Right.
You're going to start collecting rent from that new replacement investment property. So we don't like to wait around for these things.
Correct.
We usually deal with these 42 to 45 day issues when people are running down to the very end. Right. And I just want one more thing before we go to commercial. I had a situation once where a client of mine actually came to me and says, "Oh yeah, I'd like to do that 1031 exchange thing you talked about on the show." And I'm like, "Okay, when do you close escrow?" He goes, "Well, we closed escrow last week, and I've got the money in my account. I just want to reinvest it, and so I don't have to pay the tax." I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah. It sounded like the situation you had with the woman that didn't qualify, but you actually need to make sure you don't take possession of the funds.
It cannot sit in your account.
There's a 1031 exchange company that handles the funds.
Exactly.
Right. And we can help you walk through all of those steps. It's a great, great tax advice. Just make sure you handle it correctly.
Exactly.
Any questions, give us a call, 530-431-8586. Again, 530-431-8586. We'll be back for our last segment.
Red roses too, I watched them bloom.